That video got over 25,000 views. In my entire history on YouTube, I had never gotten that many views. What really sucked, too, is I wasn't even monetized at the time. But one of the things that we've noticed over the last few months, and this is something I've noticed on YouTube, and this is something that Gary brings up all the time, and I take Gary's assessment, Nerdrotic, if you don't know, Gary Buchel. Yeah. I take Gary's assessment better than just about anybody else's, because Gary's been on here pretty much longer than most of us. Than pretty much anybody to a certain, outside of maybe Eric July, outside. Young Ripper. But it's one of them situations where Gary's watched all of this stuff ebb and flow, and he's flat out said in the beginning of his video that we have seen 3 years worth of algorithmic changes in the last 3 months. Right. And wow. I have no doubt that it's true, because guess what? My content hasn't changed. My videos haven't changed, but I noticed a change in the algorithm a couple of months back where before it's one of those things. I've been playing this game long enough. I know how to play the algorithm, right? I know keywords. I know certain things like that. There's certain things that are trend. There's certain things that'll work. There's certain ways you title your things to try to get out there and stuff like that. And I didn't change anything, but I noticed it used to be no big deal for me to get a video to go, 3 or 4 times a week, a video would go more views than I had subscribers, right? Which that's an absolute win. You get more views than you got subscribers. That's a slam dunk. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden I noticed especially in the last couple of months, especially in the last month or so, now it's a miracle if I have a video crack a couple of 100 views, let alone crack 1,000. I had a Street Fighter video over the new movie and the casting announcement. First thing that's cracked 2,000 views in like probably a good 2 months, right? And it's one of them situations where it's a combination of things. Yes, if your content changes, is your algorithm going to suffer? Yes, because the algorithm wants you to do the same thing over and over and over again. It's a mathematical equation, right? If you do Warhammer 40K content, that's all it wants you to do. If you're a DC guy, that's all it wants you to do. That's why variety channels, news channels, like say it be The Quartering, whether it be Geeks and Gamers, whether it be like what I do, where you cover everything, it's the hardest way to grow. Doing news is the absolute hardest way to go because the algorithm doesn't know what to do with you, right? Mm-hmm. I cover Marvel, I cover DC, I talk about Superman, sometimes I'll talk about gaming, right? The algorithm doesn't know what to do with you at that point, right? And so that's part of the problem as well, too. That's why it's always hard for channels to do variety topics to grow naturally and to get to that kind of point because you're not doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, to what you were saying, we even have that problem on Rumble because we're a hybrid channel, because we do gaming and we do shows. So sometimes it's sort of, Rumble gets their wires crossed with us a lot.
Well, and the other thing about it is at the end of the day, no matter how much you want to complain about YouTube, and trust me, I've had 2 YouTube I'm on my second YouTube channel. I'm on my second Twitter account. Okay. I've been through the ringer as far as losing stuff and having to rebuild from the ground up. Okay. But it's one of them situations where at the end of the day, I'm sorry. I've had 2 YouTube channels that I built from the ground up outpace my Rumble channel and get monetized faster than my channels have grown. Right. And that's the problem, because at the end of the day, YouTube's algorithm, despite all of its issues, is still the only algorithm out there that is good enough to have you have organic growth. You can get organic growth on YouTube unlike anywhere else you can get. On Rumble, you got to network, right? You got to go talk to other people. You got to get involved in the community. You got to network. You got to get involved. You got to stream with other people. You got to do all this other kind of stuff. And it's the same thing with any of the rest of these other platforms. I've heard some people talk about Kick's helping them grow. I haven't seen any growth on Kick. I don't see any activity on Kick except bots. And now that I banned bots, I don't see any activity on Kick. Okay, you know what I mean?
I got a week ban on Kick for cursing out a bot.
Nice. Wow. But at the end of the day, all the issues we have, that's still the only place to grow organically until everybody else gets their stuff out. Because I'm on Odyssey, I'm on Pilled, I'm on Rumble, I'm on all of those places. But at the end of the day, nobody has the algorithm that YouTube does. And right now they've dicked with it a bunch. But it's going to take some time. It always ends up working itself out. I've gone through these ebbs and flows where I'll go for a month and only get 50, 100 views on most of my videos. And then all of a sudden it'll swap back out. It'll because at the end of the day, the views have to happen, right? Because that's the thing right now. That YouTube just overtook television. It is the most watched streaming thing on television. It beats everybody. Disney with ESPN and Hulu and Netflix and everybody else. YouTube is the dominant thing that people watch on their televisions in the United States of America now. So YouTube now has got all this massive influx of new people wanting to advertise. And what do these advertisers want? They want transparency. They want to know that a view is actually a view, because we know Facebook is cheated on their views. They flat out admitted that. And most of the time, who do they screw over? The smallest people, the mom and pop shops, right? So we know they were lying about it. So the industry, the advertising industry is already burned. They don't trust these streaming platforms when it comes to their numbers anyway, right? Well, because what did we always used to have? The Nielsen. That's the industry standard, right? For all of that kind of stuff for television watching and movie televisions. So at the end of the day, and YouTube doesn't have Nielsen. Nielsen's not plugged in there. You have to trust YouTube stuff. So YouTube's in there dicking with their algorithm, trying to get it ready, trying to make it to where it makes the advertisers happy. And because, once again, they violate one of the 10 commandments, they don't respect the mother and the father of the child that they are now responsible for, which is YouTube. They don't understand the algorithm. They're going in there and dicking with something that at the core, they don't understand it. So they're trying to make tweaks. They're trying to make adjustments. And at the end of the day, because they don't know what they're doing, it ends up screwing it up for everybody, because Gary would not be talking about this if he was not seeing an effect as well. Otherwise, he just ignore it, because you can go, I'm shadow, because you see that all the time. People go, I'm shadow banned. YouTube hates me, yada, yada, yada. Okay, for one, I know I'm shadow banned. Go search for The Common Nerd. You will see my gaming channel, and if I'm live or my videos, you will see that before you ever see my channel. You'll see a couple of shorts coming up with some girls. Yeah, so that's actual shadow banning. Just because your video didn't get as many views as your last video doesn't mean the algorithm is out to get you. It just means that content wasn't the same as the last one.
I'll tell you this, folks. You'd be forgiven, well, you wouldn't be. I've lost my turn of phrase, folks. Basically, the Common Nerd's done a 3-hour show, and he's still firing on all cylinders, okay? On his own, mind you, right? Doing a panel show like this for 3 hours can be taxing, but doing it on 4 hours, that's insane. But doing it for 4 hours, that is insane. And I'll tell you all this right here, right now. The Common Nerd is absolutely correct in his assessments. I was bringing up some examples of creators. Of course, Adversity was the first one. The Quartering was the second one. And, of course, Hypno was the third one. The Quartering's case is actually the most interesting, because he is growing slowly but surely. He is growing.
Do you mean the channel, or do you mean the actual Quartering?
Both.
Damn.
Look, we have a person
we
on
have
this
all the
panel
effects.
who ate,
Nice.
we have a person on this panel who literally ate our previous panelists. So
He's getting halfway there to quality levels.
But the thing about the Quartering is, although he is growing, operationally he runs a very financially intensive channel. Why? Because he does what no other creator in my limited experiences ever does. Actually pays people to assist with his channel, and he no, I know this is crazy. I know this is crazy. You don't do this, folks. You never pay people to be on your show, and you never pay people to actually do pieces of your show. Okay, that is corporate-minded nonsense. It also doesn't make financial sense.
That's the problem with it, right? Because it's one of those things. It's like, how could I, like, if Gary comes on my channel, right? Like, which we talked about, like, Gary's comes on smaller channels. How could you ever afford to pay Gary for his time? You have any idea what he makes during a 3-hour live stream? You know what I mean? Or a 2-hour live stream? Like, you know, it's one of them situations like that's why nobody does it, right? But you're right. Quartering is like, hey, I need somebody to help me with this. You need a full-time job. I got the money. Let's do this. And that's impressive alone. I've always given Jeremy props for stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the coffee company.
If you can afford it, that's good. If you can do it, that's good. Then you're building something of a company.
As far as Jeremy
but
goes,
most people won't.
Yeah. It's always been, don't hate the player, hate the game. You know what I mean? I don't hate on him for the fact that he can afford it. Look, if any of us could afford it, we'd probably be doing it. You
Dude,
know?
if I could afford to have people do my thumbnails, to do my
God,
to schedule, of course I will do it. We've all been doing our own stuff, but I want to say something about the algorithm, because before, like, Common Nerd, you're absolutely right that doing news channels and stuff like that is the hardest thing to do because you're all over the place. However, there is one thing that has changed, because when, let's say, I do news, I do kind of a news channel, but I do gaming. I do almost exclusively gaming. And what it used to be that when I click on that little tab when you're uploading your video and you're doing gaming and you're talking to a specific game, that's what used to matter more before, because then the algorithm basically points you to that sort of space. And when you're doing only that, and when every video has that tab, gaming and various games that you post, that you add as an addition to your YouTube description, then you're actually being in that space, and that's what boosted views. While we were talking, I looked over my channel since the year and 2 months already that I've been back on YouTube, and I can tell you, I started with a dead channel of 768 subscribers because that's what I left it several years ago, and I have a lot of videos that had more views than my recent 50 views. 50 videos. So, and I haven't changed anything. Yeah, recently I stopped uploading that as much, but I haven't changed anything in terms of how I title my videos, what I do, how I start my intros and stuff like that. I haven't changed my intro. I haven't changed the way I speak. Everything is on gaming and stuff like that. And I get videos with 50 views, and then I get a video once in a while with 5,000 views.
Well, it's very interesting because we have our own personal examples that we each of us know through our creative journeys. But I do find it very important as we are getting to the tail end of this topic, because 30-minute topic, 2 15-minute videos. The network never runs out of content to create. But the common nerd's example would be Nerdrotic. My example through my mentor would be Hypnotic, folks. And for those who are unaware, Hypnotic has gone from nowhere to everywhere in the past few years, from literally starting a channel in September of 2021 to making $500,000 on YouTube in 2024.
Nice. Rumble pays me in pesos, so that's how I feel, man.
No, the common nerd. My mentor would always bring this up because he would always say, "Oh, who's making the most money in the Bigotverse?" And towards the end of my mentor's run on SNH, he would compare Hypno to Smash JT. Because Hypno and Smash JT were each getting into the top 50 of most super chatted creators in America. And sometimes for Hypno, it was sometimes for Hypno, in some weeks, it was the world. And in that case, in 2024, just for transparency's sake, folks, Hypno made more in super chats than Nerdrotic, despite the fact Nerdrotic had a channel 10 times Hypno's size. That just goes to show. And folks, because my mentor still has these connections despite being retired, and he gives them to me. YouTube will not give Hypno his silver plaque.
That doesn't surprise me.
I mean, there have been plenty of examples where people have reached 100,000 subscriber goal and everything, and they have to go on months on end, tagging them and post on X and say "Hey, I've reached this goal. Where's my plaque at?"
That's
and they just actively refuse to do it.
That's what financial bankruptcy for a platform means.
But I mean, I'll say this.
They already shrunk the size of the play buttons.
To add to what Common Nerd said, this is one thing you do have to remember with YouTube, that regardless of where you stream to, whether it's Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, which the first 5 letters of BitChute describe the people who comment there. That's besides the point. The thing at the end of the day is that YouTube is the standard in terms of being everywhere. If I put it in wrestling terms, YouTube is the WWE and Rumble's like ECW. I mean, that's basically what it's at. So I mean, YouTube, there is no other app that's on everything the minute you pick it up out the store. Whether it's a PS4, whether it's a PS5, whether it's a cell phone, whether it's anything. All YouTube,
smart
all
TV.
Yeah, exactly. Rumble, you still can't get it on like half of the devices that you own.
You have it on smartwatches now.
Well, exactly.
There is,
just so you know.
Oh, good. Thank you to Sebrew, who's not a Hebrew, for being a member for a month, saying Leak Boy counting people's money, mind the sheep. Well, it's very important, Sebrew, who's not a Hebrew, to collect all this information, because then it can show how successful the network is, so that we can bring more people in, okay? Because a lot of people are driven by narrow self-interest. And in order to make sure the network can grow, we have to appeal to people's and creators' sensibilities at the same time. I mean, to use a wrestling equivalent, because we do have limited time, especially for our guest who's very eager. It's like having Dragon Slayer on the panel, except this guy's talented. We don't even have. Well, this was Dragon Slayer's show, folks, and yeah, it's not anymore for a reason. But we don't even have, to use a wrestling term, a WCW equivalent, who's just as strong, but a bit unstable. So unstable that it might just blow itself to I would call Kick that if it didn't have a let's give kids gambling problem and have a massive bot problem. But on that note,
Disgusting, tangent kings of new age, a story sing disgust.